What's up, my LA sports fam? It's your boy, LA Ray, host of LA Courtside Podcast, which is brought to you by the Basketball Podcast Network and sponsored by DraftKings.com. This is episode number 100, C Note, baby. 100 episodes since I started this podcast last year. Can't believe I made it to this point, but it's because of all of my followers. You know, all of you folks that listen to my podcast, I really, really appreciate it. And I will continue to do my best to try to deliver some insight into the NBA, especially, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers, who, by the way, are not participating in these particular playoffs at this point in time, but that's okay. Hey, I'll talk about the teams that are in the playoffs. But really, really quick, going back to the Clippers and the Lakers, you know, this is going to be a long off season, of course, for both of these teams. There were high expectations at the beginning of the year that just were not fulfilled, especially for the Lakers squad. In terms of the Clippers, you know, they don't have, you know, the drama, let's say, that the Lakers have. The Clippers, all they have to do is fine tune that team, you know, during the summer, add a free agent here or there. You know what? You know, who knows what's going to happen in a draft and things like that. Get yourself Kawhi Leonard back healthy for the start of next season, which he will be. You'll have a healthy Paul George. You'll have a healthy Norman Powell. You know, you still have Reggie Jackson, your Luke Kennards, and you know young Terrence Mann up and coming. You know, Marcus Morris Sr. So the Clippers are not in a precarious situation like the Lakers are. The Lakers are going to have to make some difficult decisions this summer. And, you know, we talk about this all the time, Russell Westbrook. I mean, you know, really what more can you say? It just did not work out with him and the Lakers. But the problem is, you know, if the Lakers want to get rid of him, you know, how are they going to do that? You know, are they going to trade him to someone? It takes two to tango or three to tango if you find another trading partner and do some kind of three-team trade. You know, Russell Westbrook, I don't know why folks on Twitter and Facebook and all of that, some fans say, hey, he should just opt out of his contract. He didn't play well. He should just opt out. Really? Would you opt out of a $47 million contract or whatever it is he has coming for next year? I don't think so. He'll just, you know, he'd rather be traded. Doesn't matter who he's traded to. I'm not giving up $47 million. I'll play for the worst team in the NBA for $47 million. So that's going to be off the table. And, you know, is there a possible buyout option? I suppose it probably is, you know, but will Jeannie Buss cut that check? You know, will he play half the year next year, let's say, to see if things get better? Will he do that? And then at that point, maybe get bought out? Not so sure. So the Lakers have a lot of questions. And at this point, no answers when it comes to Russell Westbrook. So basically all they need to do is weather the storm, figure out what you're going to do with Westbrook, and then move on, because that experiment just did not work. Now, you know, you still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You still worry about the injury situations with Anthony Davis, and also the injury situations with LeBron James, for that matter. And, you know, there's been, you know, a couple of comments, especially from Anthony Davis, when he said, hey, myself and LeBron James, we can come back and make this thing work next year. You know, add a few pieces here or there or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. But he did not mention anything about Russell Westbrook. And then there's been reports. I don't know how true these are. You know, you take these reports that you hear on the news and, you know, on the radio and different podcasts and things like that, that the Laker brass are blaming Anthony Davis and LeBron James for getting Russell Westbrook in the fold. Now, if that's the case, you know, LeBron James, he's not the general manager, okay? He can make recommendations, of course, and things like that, and they're going to run things by LeBron James and Anthony Davis for that matter. But let's say if they did say, hey, I think if you go out and get a Russell Westbrook, that'd be the third wheel on this particular car. It'll make our team a super team. You know, we'll be great if you go out and get this guy. It still has to be signed off by Pelinka and, of course, Jeannie Buss has to sign off on that. And if that's the case, and if Rob Pelinka signed off on it, and then Jeannie Buss gave her blessing, and it didn't work out, then it's just an organizational decision that was made, but by the organization, including a couple of players, a GM, and an owner, and it just didn't work out. So you really can't put the blame or the finger on one particular person or two particular people. That was an organizational decision to bring in Russell Westbrook, and it just did not work out. So, count your losses, move on. I'm thinking a trade is the most viable possibility you have for Russell Westbrook. But again, it takes two to tango. Who's going to want him in that $47 million salary? Maybe a team that's looking to dump some salary. This is Russell Westbrook's last year of that contract. So, maybe that'd be a little bit more appealing to a team to take on Russell Westbrook if that's the case. So, having said all that, Lakers and the Clippers are on the sidelines, but we still have basketball. And that opening clip that you just heard by FLO-RIDA is going down for real. We are in the second round of the playoffs now, and all the pretenders have gone home, or as Charles Barkley would say, gone fishing. All the pretenders. And I'm going to just do a quick recap of that first round, or talk about like a couple of teams, like the loser Minnesota Timberwolves, and of course the loser Brooklyn Nets. And then do a preview on the semifinals of both on the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference really, really quick. So let me just start off with this recap here. I mentioned the Brooklyn Nets, of course, and it's easy to jump on a team when they're down. It's definitely easy to jump on a player when he's down. And we have talked about Ben Simmons ad nauseum, and to the point where I was really tired of talking about the guy. However, you just have to bring this up, man. Ben Simmons, after the Brooklyn Nets went down 0-2, and he was asked whether or not he would be playing in Game 3. And he said he didn't think that he would be playing in Game 3. But he may possibly play in Game 4. So lo and behold, what happens? The Nets, they lose Game 3 to the Boston Celtics, who just really just punked them out. I mean, let's just call it like it is. They really punked them out. So the Brooklyn Nets, they lose Game 3, 109-103. So Game 4, what happens? Oh, my back. It almost reminds me of that Friday scene where the guy was at the liquor store and fell on the floor.
I'm suing y'all. Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
I mean, come on, Ben Simmons. Back spasms, really? That's what we're talking about? That's what we're really talking about here? What a soft-ass player. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets players, I'm really, really upset. It's not like the Brooklyn Nets got blew out in any of these games. They lost Game 1, 115-114. They lost Game 2, 114-107. They lost Game 3, 109-103. And Game 4, 116-112. So it's not like they got blew out. And I'm not saying if Ben Simmons would have played that it would have even made a difference, because we know damn well he ain't going to shoot the ball. They weren't going to get anything from him offensively, that's for sure. But defensively, he could have done some things. He could have provided a spark for that team. But he decided not to play. So this goes all the way back to Philadelphia, where, he got called out by Joel Embiid, for a series of games. Then all of a sudden he said, he wants out of Philadelphia. Then he came up with when Philadelphia wasn't going to pay him all that loot, he came up with the mental issue deal. Okay. Then he gets the trade that he wants to the Brooklyn Nets. So now the mental issue should be gone, right? You wanted away from Joel Embiid, you got away from him. You wanted away from Doc Rivers, you got away from him. You wanted away from the Philadelphia fans, you got away from them. Now all of a sudden you get to the Brooklyn Nets, and you still say you have mental issues, even though you left those behind in Philadelphia. And I'm not trying to minimize people that have mental issues, but that was like a self-diagnosis that he said. I don't know, did any doctor, any mental health physician corroborate that and say that, yes, he has mental issues? I'm not even sure that happened. Okay, now all of a sudden you have the back spasm. So just a bad situation all the way around. And when next season comes with Brooklyn, who knows? Who knows? Is Kyrie Irving even going to be there? Kevin Durant, as bad as he played, at least he went out there and played. If anyone should have back spasms after the defense that the Celtics put on him, it should be Kevin Durant. I mean, you had Tatum, and God bless Jason Tatum, man. Rising star. If he's already a superstar, in my opinion. The guy can play defense. He showed everyone he could play defense as well. And if he wasn't on him, you got Jaylen Brown on him. If he wasn't on him, Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart was. Boston just manhandled, in most spots, Kevin Durant. And he didn't shoot well. Kevin Durant would say that. He did not shoot well, except for in that last game where it was just really, really over with. And then Kyrie, I don't know where he was at, in that whole series. He didn't play all that well either. So, hence the Brooklyn Nets, who also had high expectations, just like the LA Lakers had. That goes back to the beginning of the season when they had James Harden. And they had that big three. So that blew up in their face. And they find themselves on the outside looking in. And the other series, and by the way, folks, that the voices you heard in the background as I was talking about the Brooklyn Nets and Ben Simmons was the NFL draft. One of my favorite times of the year. So I had to sound up just a little bit so I can hear some of these picks coming through. I think the LA Rams and the LA Chargers are going to end up with a very, very good draft. But I digress. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves. What a choke of a basketball team. How in the hell can you build a 20-point lead in the first half, blow it? I mean, just totally blow that lead, then build the lead back up to, I think it was 26 points, build it back up over 20 and blow it again. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen. 2 different points in the game where you had 20-point leads and blew it. And in a deciding game, Game 6 last night, what happens? Minnesota had a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and Memphis just dominated them, outscored them 40-22, and ended up winning the game 114-106. What a choke job by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and specifically Karl Anthony Towns. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, very, very good basketball player, okay? Talks a lot of trash. You got to back it up sometime, kid. 6 out of 19 ain't going to cut it. He did have 10 rebounds, 4 assists, but 6 out of 19 is not going to cut it. You're an all-star. Didn't cut it. Anthony Edwards, he played his ass off, 10 out of 24. And I'm still sure he has like a gimpy knee, but he was still out there balling. 10 out of 24. He led the Timberwolves with 30 points. 30-point effort. McDaniels chipped in with 24. But that they just couldn't pull it off. And D'Angelo Russell also did not have a good game. He only shot the ball 7 times. He was 3 out of 7 from the floor and scored 7 points. So I say all that to say the Minnesota Timberwolves really a choke artist. They led in most of this series. They had the lead for the most part in all of the games, pretty much, and just flat out blew it. I mean, they had Memphis on the ropes. And, Memphis, too much Ja Morant. Now, Ja Morant did not have that great of a game. He was only 4 out of 14 in the deciding game, but he did have 11 assists and 8 rebounds. That kid is not scared to stick his neck in there, man, to get rebounds for a guard like that. 8 rebounds. He ended up with 17 points. Desmond Bane, balling, 9 out of 15, 23 points. Man, you talking about a kid that can shoot the basketball. Desmond Bane can shoot the damn ball. I mean, he was in 3-point shooting contest as well. as well. Dylan Brooks, 9 out of 19, 23 points. Jaren Jackson Jr., 6 out of 15 for 18 points. Now, personally, and I'm going to talk about this in my preview of the semifinals of both conferences, I do not think that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to beat Golden State, but I'll talk about that matchup in a moment. But again, I just wanted to touch on the Minnesota Timberwolves choke artist. Minnesota was 46-36. They ended the season with that record. But in the playoffs, they just, the proverbial choke job, man. You can't blow two. Think about this, folks. Two different 20-point leads in the same game. I'm not saying they had a 20-point lead in this game and blew it, and then in the following game they had a 26-point lead and blew it. This was in the same game and blew those leads. So is that a testament to the coach? Were players just choking? Maybe a combination of both. So with that, before I get to the preview of both semifinals in the Eastern and Western Conference, here's a word from our sponsor, DraftKings.com. The NBA playoffs means next level basketball. Get in on the first round action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. You win no matter what. All DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on NBA hoops with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. Plus, each day of the first round, get a risk-free bet up to $10 if your same-game parlay doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the first round of the playoffs and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code TBPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply.
If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Wyoming. 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado and New Hampshire. 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. 877-8-HOPE New York or text HOPE New York. That's 467-369 in New York. Visit opgr.org in Oregon. Call or text Tennessee Red Line, that's 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee, or 1-888-532-3500 in Virginia. Must be 21 and older in all those states just mentioned. 18 and above in New Hampshire and Wyoming. You must be physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming only. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com Sportsbook for details.
All right, my LA sports fam. Again, it's your boy, LA Ray, host of LA Courtside, brought to you again by the Basketball Podcast Network. And as you heard, we are sponsored by DraftKings.com. Make sure you sign up for DraftKings.com, put in promo code TBPN, start placing your bets on the semifinals in the Eastern and the Western Conference. And for this second segment, I'm going to preview those games briefly, starting with well, let me just name the teams that's in it because, all the pretenders are out. Your Minnesotas, your Torontos, your Brooklyn Nets, and so on and so forth. So let me start. You have Milwaukee at Boston, game 1 on Sunday tomorrow. That whole series is just going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. Then you have Golden State and Memphis. You have the Philadelphia 76ers in Miami, and you have Dallas and the Phoenix Suns. So let's start off with Milwaukee and Boston, which I think is going to be the more interesting of those 4 playoff series. And I tell you what, man, that Boston Celtics team is dynamite. They are dynamite. In the middle of the season, that team was basically playing around 500 basketball. Then they just caught fire in the second half of the season. They just started balling out, man. And I believe they had the best record in the East in the second half of the season. I mean, they're on fire. That team is definitely on fire. And, talk about defense. They have that. Jason Tatum has shown everyone that not only is he a great offensive player, but he can play defense as well. He pretty much, I'm not going to say he shut down Kevin Durant, but he made life pretty miserable for Kevin Durant throughout that series. And if Tatum's not on Durant, I mean, hell, they can throw Jaylen Brown on him. Durant is, of course, taller than Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown's a tough kid. And then, of course, you got the Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart, that can also harassed Kevin Durant. And, the rest of that team, Al Horford, got that grizzled veteran on that team. And, they got Williams coming off the bench. You got White coming off the bench. You got Pritchard coming off the bench who can shoot the basketball. It's going to be very, very tough for Milwaukee. Very, very tough for Milwaukee. Now, you can't count the Bucks out, of course. They are the reigning NBA champions. And you do have the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But the issue there is, of course, is Chris Middleton is out with a sprained MCL, and he's out indefinitely. And they have replaced him in the starting lineup with Wes Matthews, formerly of the Lakers, of course. So I do not think, as good as the Bucks are, as good as the Greek freak is, as good as Bobby Portis has been playing, he's been on fire lately. Drew Holiday, you're going to get what you're going to get from him. I do not think that Milwaukee is going to outlast the Bulls. I'm sorry, not the Bulls. They did outlast the Bulls. They beat the Bulls 4-1. Of course, I mean the Celtics. So in this particular series, I am picking the Boston Celtics to win this series against Milwaukee 4-2. That's right. I said it. The Boston Celtics, they are on fire just that much. They will win this series 4-2 against the Milwaukee Bucks, in my humble opinion. Now, on to Golden State and Memphis. This is the one where LA Ray has a couple of bucks on there with my best friend, Mr. Steve Witcher. He says Memphis is going to outlast Golden State. No way, dude. Absolutely no way. Now, I do like this Grizzlies team. They beat up on the choking Minnesota Timberwolves, and that's good. They have a very, very good young team, of course, led by Ja Morant, who did not play all that well in that final game, by the way. He only scored 17 points on 4 of 14 shooting. He was 9 of 12 from the free throw line, however. Which, he's going to get to the basket, and he's going to get a lot of fouls. He had 11 assists and 8 rebounds. So in that sense, that part of the game was pretty good. But he has to shoot better. He definitely is going to have to shoot better in order for them to beat Golden State with the firepower that Golden State has. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's going to have to be more consistent. You got Dylan Brooks. He scored 23 points in that last game, but are you going to expect that every single game from Brooks? Desmond Bane, now that's a shooter for you right there, folks. That kid can jack him up, man. A lot of people don't really, he was in that three-point shooting contest. He was 9 out of 15 from the field. In that last game, 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. So Memphis has some firepower. They really, really do. But, however, Golden State, man, they're on a different level. Golden State is they're just on a different level, man. I mean, everyone knows the firepower that they have at the guard spot. You got Curry. Curry was coming off the bench in the first few games in that particular series that they won against Denver. But now he's back starting again, and he scored in the closeout game 30 points. Hell, if he's not on, then you got Klay Thompson to worry about. If he's not on, you got Jordan Poole, who has come out of nowhere. Jordan Poole is making a whole bunch of money for himself, I tell you that much. So if Curry and Thompson are not hitting, you have to worry about Poole. If Poole's not hitting, you have to worry about Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins. You know what Draymond's going to give you on the defensive end, and if you leave him open, hell, he can shoot the ball as well. You have a young Kuminga that comes off the bench, and then you have a guy in Gary Payton II, who in that final closeout game in which Golden State won 102-98, he came off the bench, scored 15. So they just have so much firepower. I do not think Memphis is going to, as my friend thinks, Memphis is going to win this series. And Memphis is young. Golden State has been through the wars. Draymond, Curry, Klay, not necessarily Jordan Poole, but the big three of Thompson, Curry, and Draymond. They've been through the wars. Memphis is a young team, inexperienced in these type of situations. I look for Golden State to win that series 4-2 or the Memphis Grizzlies. And then, of course, I can boast, with my buddy and have him pay me my C note, my $100. On to the next one. You have Philadelphia in Miami. I tell you what, man, it's over for Philadelphia. It's over. Joel Embiid, of course, he not only did he have the torn ligament in his thumb in his shooting hand, now he has a fractured orbital bone, courtesy of an elbow from Pascal Siakam. Elbow to the chops. He's going to be out, Embiid, I'm referring to, indefinitely. Now, what does that mean? Now you're going to count on James Harden to carry you through. James Harden, no, against Miami. It's not going to happen. Sorry, Philly fans. I believe it's all over for you. Now, Philadelphia still has firepower. Tobias Harris, of course, he can fill it up. Tyrese Maxey has had a breakout year. And, you got Danny Green over there. But James Harden, he's going to have to be the man. And we know his history in the playoffs, when it gets into crunch time. Now, can he turn that around and carry a team? I guess it's possible. I mean, the guy's a great player. But then when the playoff comes, it's different. They need the regular season James Harden. And when I say the regular season back when he was with, say, OKC or even with Houston, back when he was with them. Okay, if they get the playoff James Harden, it's over. And if Joel Embiid does not come back, this is going to be a series that I really, really believe that the 76ers will get swept. They're going to get swept. They're going to get swept by the Miami Heat. And then we're going to hear all the excuses from Mr. Doc Rivers. He was the only coach in NBA history to lose 3 different 3-1 leads. Okay? It's not going to be a contest because Miami, of course, Jimmy Butler is going to be back. Kyle Lowry, they say, may be back. You got Bam Adebayo over there. Victor Oladipo, he scored 23 points in the closeout game. And by the way, Trae Young, dude, come on. 2 of 12. 0 of 5 from beyond the arc for 11 points. In that game 5, that's not going to cut it, dude. But going back to Miami, I mean, too much firepower. Tyler Hero, 6 out of 12 from the field. 16 points. Too much firepower. Too much firepower. And Miami has a home court advantage. They was the number 1 seed in the East. I see if Joel Embiid does not come back, because we know what he can give you, I see a 4-0 series sweep by the Miami Heat. Now, if Embiid is able to play, which right now they're thinking that he's not, but if he's able to, maybe he has one of those Rip Hamilton masks on. If he plays, Philadelphia may squeak out a couple of games, and it'll be a 4-2 series win by the Miami Heat. If he doesn't play, they're going to get swept. It's that simple. They're going to get swept. And then the last one, of course, you have Dallas at Phoenix. The Dallas Mavericks, really, really good team, of course, led by Luka Doncic. But they also have other nice players on that team. But, if Doncic is not hitting, you're not going to get much from Dallas. Brunson is playing for a nice big contract, too. I mean, he's been pretty much dominant. Scored 24 points in the closeout win against Utah. Utah, by the way, they can say goodbye to Donovan Mitchell. If he's not already demanded a trade, once he becomes a free agent, he's gone. It's not going to want to play with that team anymore. Utah's another choke artist type of team. But going back to Dallas, Dorian Finney-Smith, a great two-way player. Well, not a great two-way player. Very, very good two-way player. He scored 18 points in the closeout game. And then, they come off the bench with Spencer Dinwiddie, who scored 19 points. So Dallas has a pretty good team. Okay, pretty good. However, they're going up against the Phoenix Suns. We all know they lost in the finals last year against the Milwaukee Bucks. They have something to prove. They have plenty of firepower themselves. Chris Paul, the floor general. Chris Paul against the New Orleans Pelicans in the closeout win, the 115-109 win over New Orleans. He was 14 of 14 from the field, folks. Perfect. 8 assists, 33 points. Devin Booker is back. He didn't look like the Devin Booker of old, but, he's going to get a few extra days rest here. He's going to be all ready to go. He only scored 13 points in the closeout game, but he'll be fine. DeAndre Ayton, he scored 22 points. Mikal Bridges, 18 points. Bridges is playing well. And, of course, they can come off the bench with the 2 Camerons, Cameron Johnson, Cameron Payne, Bismarck Biyombo, JaVale McGee, Landry Shamet. So Phoenix has something to prove. Now, against Dallas, can Dallas win a couple of games? I guess they can. I mean, I really didn't think New Orleans was going to win, but maybe one game. They end up winning 2 against Phoenix. So I'll give Dallas, because Luka Doncic is such a great player. One of these games, he's going to go off for like 40 points or something like that. I give Dallas a couple of games. But Phoenix is going to, in the end, they're going to win 4 games to 2 against the Dallas Mavericks. So that is my preview for both conferences and the semifinals for both conferences. And it all starts tomorrow on Sunday. So we will see how it all shakes out. So my LA sports fam, I'm going to end it right there. Thanks again for listening to episode number 100. By the way, this episode will also be available on YouTube as well. So tell your friends about LA Courtside Podcast. Tell them about your boy LA Ray. Go on to wherever you get your podcast from, whether it be Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get it from, Odyssey, Amazon. We're everywhere. Subscribe. Leave a comment, good or bad. Good or bad, leave a comment. I actually was followed on my Twitter. My Twitter account, by the way, is at LA Courtside Pod, where you can find me on Twitter. Was followed by Jeannie Buss. And, I told her, I said, hey, I'm, a guy just a guy doing a podcast. She said, congratulations on your podcast. And, just make sure, when you comment about these teams, Lakers, Clippers, or whoever, good or bad, good or bad, pretty much. And that's exactly what I do. I'm unbiased. If the team is not playing well, I'm going to say that. If the team is playing well, I'll say that. I'm not going to be all on the fence. I'm not going to be sucking up to any team, whether it's the Clippers, Lakers, or anybody else. So I call them as I see them, just like Jeannie Buss suggested that I do. So again, with that, until the next episode, my LA Sports fam, this is LA Ray signing off. Peace.